On this edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, we get the latest on the Western Canadian Baseball League season from President Kevin Kvame. Welcome to episode 88 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. There have been a lot of questions surrounding the upcoming summer baseball season here in Alberta, as well as across the country and around the world. Will it happen? Can we have a shortened campaign? And how willing are players and fans to even take part? Those questions and more have been hanging over the head of Kevin Kvame. Over the last few weeks, the Western Canadian Baseball League president has been trying to stay on top of all the COVID-19 developments and meeting with the teams on a regular basis to get a sense of how they feel as we inch closer and closer to the original start of the season, which was set for the last couple of weeks of May. There are a lot of variables at play, including two provinces and different circumstances around the pandemic and the ability of getting U.S. college players across the border. They held another meeting on Wednesday night to chart the course for the summer, and we chatted with Kvame about that, as well as what happened with the Canadian College Baseball Conference. Kevin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So what's the verdict?
Well, the WCBL Board of Governors met and had a positive, lengthy discussion about the league and the challenges we continue to face. But as we said in early April, we kind of had some timelines in place, and looks like our timeline to have a full season has passed us by without any major changes to the obstacles that we face to have a season. So the decision was officially made that we move to Plan B, which is to continue to monitor everything and look toward a shortened season that would start near the end of June or early July. Again, if health and government authorities permit those things to occur.
What are some of the things going into that decision-making process? Because it seems as though it's ever-changing with this landscape.
Well, I think we're not trying to overreact, or I don't think we're trying to underreact. I mean, we all realize that this is a unprecedented situation that none of us that are, involved in this have ever been through anything like this before. And, we're just trying to monitor it and, get as much information about it as can, see what the news of the day is. And, the news changes daily on the government's reaction to it, both north and south of the border, and reactions to, how they're dealing with it around the world. And we don't want to prematurely cut anything off that, would give the communities and the players especially the opportunity to get back on the field and play baseball. But of course, we're not going to do this without, really knowing that it's safe and can be deemed healthy for us to do that. So, I mean, it's to some it looks like a impossible task. To others in the league, it appears to be unlikely scenario. But each week that goes by, there's new information, new data, new information that comes out from all of the sources that we're monitoring, and so we don't want to do something premature and then say a week down the road, oh my goodness, we should have thought of that. And so we're trying to be diligent and careful, and we have our deadlines when we think that we could get in a 2020 season, now shortened, sometime into August or as late into August as we could go at this point, and give the players some baseball if it's permitted.
How challenging is it to try to navigate this while you have two provinces that are essentially at different ends of seemingly the spectrum when it comes to COVID-19?
Well, I think Saskatchewan has outlined their relaunch strategy. Even that relaunch strategy is a long shot for us. However, Alberta is coming out with their relaunch strategy later this week. And, I'm a firm believer that the relaunch strategy in Alberta is going to not be, dramatically different than what is happening in BC and Saskatchewan, our neighboring provinces, because that's going to create some challenges if beyond baseball and just in society in general, if you have different strategies in neighboring provinces.
Are there other logistical issues, especially when you look at the number of American kids who would be making their way up here?
Those are, our two biggest issues are the gathering size and the border issue. The border issue is currently in closed mode at least until the 21st of May, and that may get extended after that. Another reason that we looked at, the earliest this could happen is late June, early July at this point. Knowing what we know to get players up here. And we're also going to closely follow what other, the Canadian Football League is doing, and, the National Hockey League has parameters they're looking at different options as well. And certainly not saying we're at that level, but, what they, and nor do we have the staff to do what they do. So we're definitely trying to look at what they're doing from a logistical standpoint to see how they're going to overcome those situations as well.
Is the notion of playing in front of no fans on the table for the WCBL?
It has been briefly discussed, but I don't think there is any. I guess at this point in time, there hasn't been a lot of discussion around how to mitigate the financial loss from doing that. The players would love to play under any circumstances just to get back on the ball field and start to enjoy the game again. But I will also add that they love playing in front of the fans too. So, if the players had a choice of playing in front of fans and not having a season as being the determining factor, or playing in front of no fans and being able to play the season, they would choose playing over not playing.
When it comes to the mood around the table, how challenging has it been to try to navigate this with all the member teams and trying to get input from everybody?
Getting input from everybody has never been an issue in this league.
That's fair.
How's that for a good political answer? No, we have awesome governors in this league. They are passionate about their teams. They're passionate about the historical presence of the Western Canadian Baseball League and its predecessors that have been around for years. And they all want to see the league become as successful as it can be. There's different ways to get to that point, and having different viewpoints is not necessarily a bad thing. So in the end, these are all professional. They deal in a professional fashion and bring their opinions to the table. They're not scared of hearing other people's opinions. And in the end, they make a decision that's in the best interest of the league in their view.
Is there a potential to have an all-Canadian roster across the board to avoid the issues around the border?
That I think that's been floated out there a couple of times, whether that would be the WCBL doing that or some of the franchises in the WCBL being able to do that. That really hasn't been a long discussion at the WCBL table. It has been, I think discussed, what do we do if everything else is good and what the border issue is the problem. And, there may be some opportunities to, if baseball is allowed to be one of the sports that gets back on the field in the summer, maybe there's some other things that would pop up, and maybe some of the WCBL teams could support something like that. But I think that's, again, premature at this point because we're focused in on the league season still being our top option, if at all possible.
You wear a whole lot of hats in baseball in this province, and I wanted to touch briefly on the CCBC as well, and some pretty tough decisions because you were not only looking forward to a season, but you were also looking forward to hosting the championships in Lethbridge, and that's unfortunately a no-go. Talk us through sort of the decision-making process and some of the things that were talked about in making that decision.
Well, that one was a lot different than the WCBL. I mean, you got parallel things going on, but the CCBC decision came down. It started, right in mid-March there, and for us here in Lethbridge, it was triggered by, the infections and the government edicts about what's going on, and Coach Hupka here made the call to shut down Lloyd Nolan Yard for a week just to make sure we weren't seeing a major outbreak or something happen, because that facility is used so much by youth teams and by the academy. 3 days later, the league is having a meeting, and the momentum, this is all like 2 or 3 days before the NHL shut down, or no, I guess it was 3 days after the NHL shut down, that the league met, and schools are shutting down and sending students home, or saying we're shut down for 2 weeks. And then a couple of schools released the information that they're going to be longer. And then there was, lots of panic going on in society at that point in time. And it was felt in the best interests of the athletes that with schools going remotely, that there was no point in keeping the athletes on site to train when school wasn't in, and get them back to their home cities while they were still able to get there at that point, was the thought process. And once that was done, it just became, you saw the tsunami of decisions being made by different levels of government, and, you were never going to be able to get back to getting the college league up and running this spring to any fashion. So once that dates got set to the end of April, things were shut down, and then it made no sense to have a 2-week season and a World Series at that point. So they came back a couple weeks later and made the decision that they would try to get some form of a CCBC season in place in the fall, starting around the Labor Day weekend. And lately, there's all kinds of challenges still around that, but no firm decisions have been made for the fall yet, because this is like the WCBL now, because you have the I guess added luxury of some time before you have to make those decisions.
A lot of moving parts on a lot of different fronts, Kevin. I'm glad that we were able to connect and update our followers as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Kevin Kvame for joining us this week. As a quick follow-up, Kvame does say the WCBL meets as needed and can do so on short notice should the situation change. As for when a final decision on the season could be made, it sounds like they're aiming for the first week of June. We'll keep you posted on any developments over the next month. As always, thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. We are so grateful for you taking the time to listen here on the podcast or reading our stories at albertadugoutstories.com. Until next time, thanks again for all of your support, no matter the platform of Alberta Dugout Stories.